Woohoo, we're back. And today we're going to be working with factoring and focusing on three terms using trial and error or the AC method. There's actually another method that some people have learned called the X method. It has other names. I've got a separate video explaining this one. So for this video, we're just going to look at trial and error and the AC method. Now, factoring trinomials does tend to take a lot of time and a lot of space. So give yourself space. Make sure you're not trying to squish this into just a couple lines on the paper. And make sure you can actually turn the page. And here we go. Dun, dun, dun. So the AC method is a method. It is, I think, right now commonly taught in high school, although you may not have come across it when you first took algebra. And it is sometimes taught in college classrooms. Some college professors hate it. Some love it. And I'm just going to present it to you. And once I show you how to use it, it will work. So if you want to use it, great. If you don't want to use it, that's fine. There's at least two other methods to do this. The reason that professors don't tend to like this is that the method doesn't tend to help you get faster. So once you learn this method, it will work and it's great, but it will always take you a very long time. The second method that we're going to talk about today does tend to scale in a nice way, so that once you start working with it, if you practice the method, it's called trial and error, your brain will actually get better and faster, and then you will get to the point where you can factor trinomials in your head. And so that's the real benefit to the second method. But to be honest, this method works. So if this works and you like it, go for it. That is awesome. You'll be able to factor things. So the AC method starts out and is named after the way of writing out quadratics. So this is 12x squared. That makes it a quadratic. When we write out the polynomial or the quadratic, we write it and we imagine that it follows this format: ax squared plus bx plus c, which you may remember if you've studied the quadratic formula. It's the same letters. So in this case, we've got a equals 12, right? The a is 12. B, this one's a little bit nerve-wracking because I remember not being sure. Is it 1? Is it -1? The b is the sign as well. So since it's the opposite of x, it's -1. So b is -1. And c, similarly, it's the whole thing. It's the signed number. So the sign that comes before the 6 is included. So we start there. Make sure you've got them in descending order: x squared, x, and the number, the constant. And then you can assign each of these constants, the a, b, and c, their value. And then, as is written in the title, so it helps you remember it, the very first thing you do is you multiply a and c. So I'm going to take a times c. So in this case, that's 12 times -6. And that's going to be -72. And I'm going to remind you, in this class, calculators are awesome. They're a tool. We love them. So use them. And but also be practicing, practicing your times tables, practicing multiplying things in your head, and then check with the calculator. And that way you'll get that practice in case you end up in a class where the teacher is less likely to let you use the calculator. I actually think calculators are awesome. They're my best friend. So, well, not my only best friend. Really, I have other friends. Okay, change the subject. So we've multiplied a times c. We got 12 times -6 is -72. And now comes the slow part, which is that we have to break 72 into two numbers multiplied together to give us -72. What do I mean by that? I mean, and since it's negative, I'm going to start with the negative. -1 times 72. Okay. And then -2 times, and then we're going to keep going. 36. And again, if you're not sure, use your calculator. -3 times, and this one, the way I remember it is 3 days is 72 hours. So that's -3 times 24. Negative 4, turns out 4 goes into 72. 4 goes into it how many times? 18. Woohoo! 5. Can we do negative 5? Nope. Negative 5 does not go into negative 72, and we can try it. We can check that. 72 divided by 5. Nope. Doesn't go in evenly, and that's what we're dealing with right now. The AC test method, or the AC method, uses integers, not all real numbers. So negative 6, 6 does go into it. We get 12. Negative 7, nope. Negative 8, yep. Negative 8 times 9. Okay, and then in addition to all these, we could try it the other way around. So what do I mean? 1 times negative 72. 2 times negative 36. 3 times negative 24. 4 times negative 18. 6 times negative 12. I'm running out of space. And 8 times negative 9. And for the purposes of this method, if the first one is negative, that's going to be different from the second one being negative. So we include all of these possibilities. That's a lot. It is a lot. And 72 is not too bad. Sometimes you get some numbers where you could fill a couple pages with the possibilities. Now, normally, would you write them all down? No. This is what you would do normally. I wanted to go through the practice of writing them all down so you could see what that looked like. So then what you're supposed to do is you want the sum of these two factors, and this is kind of wacky, but this is the way it works. You want the sum to equal b, which is negative 1. So if we look at the sum, negative 1 plus 72, we get 71. Nope, that's not it. Okay, negative 2 plus 36. That's 34. Nope. Negative 3 plus 24. That's 21. Nope. Negative 4 plus 18 equals 14. Nope. And a lot of people ask, do I have to write this all down? And I would turn it right back to you and say, do you have to write this all down? For me, I like to have it written down so that when I go back and check my work, I can see what I've done. So it's easier for me. If you want to just quickly do it in your head, and if your head is good at this, then I would say, you don't have to write it all down. Now, something interesting happened just now. Negative 8 times 9 gives me negative 72. And negative 8 plus 9 gives me 1. I want negative 1. Negative 1 is my magical number. So I think, ooh, I'm real close right here. So that's really interesting. That is really interesting. So now I'm going to go through, and I could keep going. 1 plus negative 72 is negative 71. Oh, interesting. That's just the opposite of that one. 2 plus negative 36. Okay, that's going to be negative 34. 3 plus negative 24, negative 21. 4 plus negative 18 equals negative 14. 6 plus negative 12 is negative 6. And a lot of people ask, oh my gosh, this is a lot of work. Is this even worth it? And the answer is, well, on a test, the nice thing about this method is it doesn't require a lot of creativity. The method requires you to do the same steps every time. So it's one that you can get really good at. The second method I'm going to tell you about, trial and error, actually requires a little bit more creativity, I think. So sometimes people feel when you get stuck on a test and your mind goes blank, this actually has steps that you can follow. And brains are, especially stressed out brains, when you can just give them a pattern to follow, brains are usually very happy about it. So we get to the last one. I know you all have been very excited. You're like, just add the last one. And I got, woohoo! Look at that. I got it. Yay. Now, did we know it was going to happen up here? Yes. Could we have skipped all of this and gone here? Yes, absolutely. I just wanted to have an example of what it would look like if, worst case, it was your very last one that you pick. That happens sometimes. Okay. And then frequently people say, okay, are we done? And the answer is, well, have we factored the polynomial? And then we see, no, we haven't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and put it in a little box by itself so that visually I know this is off to the side. And this is the way that I do it. You are absolutely welcome to set this up a different way. I know that I'm kind of going backwards, going over to the left, but this is the way that makes the most sense to my brain. You're going to take the 12x squared minus x minus 6, right? There's that original polynomial. That's the trinomial. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this 12x squared minus 1x minus 6. I'm just emphasizing this is a negative 1. And I'm going to put in these two numbers that I found, the 8 and the negative 9. Am I allowed to do this? Well, the answer is yes, in this case, because 8x minus 9x is negative 1x. So I'm not changing the polynomial, I'm just changing how I write it. Now, having done that, now I have something called grouping. I have 4 terms now, right? I had a trinomial, now there are 4 terms. And that's important. What we're going to do is something called grouping. Group the first 2 terms and the second 2 terms. And then if you've ever had a really big job you had to do and you broke it up into smaller pieces to make it easier, that's exactly what we're going for here. So for grouping, instead of trying to factor the whole thing, I'm going to factor just these 2. Do we have a GCF? The greatest common factor. Is there anything common between the 12x squared and the 8x? And the answer is yes. I should have written equals here. Sorry about that. There we go. Oh, that last one was a little smeary. So I've got 12x squared plus 8x. 12 and 8 have 4 in common, and they each have at least one x. So I'm going to factor out a 4x. 12x squared was what I started with. If I pull the 4 and one of the x's out, the 12 divided by 4 is 3. X squared, pull out 1x, I've got 1x left. And then the 8x, if I divide 8 by 4, I get 2. And I pull out the x, so that's it. I got the whole thing. So I squeezed out a 4x, and I've got 3x plus 2 left. Now over here, I've got completely different things going on. So I ignore what's going on there, and now I switch over to this piece, and I say, okay, here I've got negative 9x minus 6. I see that 9 and 6 share a 3, so I'm going to factor out a 3. I am also going to factor out whatever that sign is right there, and this is just a helpful hint. This will make your life a lot easier. If there's a minus right there in the middle, factor out a minus, and I'm going to factor out a 3. Now, what does that do? If I factor a negative and a 3 out of negative 9x, I've got the minus out. I've got 3 out of the 9, so 9 divided by 3 is 3, and I didn't take the x, so I've got an x. And then I've got negative 6. Factor out the minus, okay? 6 divided by 3 is 2, and because I pulled the minus out, this is a plus. And then, this is very exciting, this happens. The good news is if this works, this should work. Woohoo. So you won't be doing all this work for nothing and find out it doesn't work. This should work. If you can do this part, you should be able to do this part. Now, there's a 3x plus 2. There's a 3x plus 2. And I know I'm going to do it weird, but because they're both on the right, I'm going to pull it out to the right. And then I get 4x minus 3. And that's it. That's the whole method. Woohoo! Yay! Okay, since we're already almost up to 15 minutes, I'm going to go ahead and stop it here. There will be the next video, we will go over the same problem, dun dun dun, using trial and error. So slightly different method for the next one, but the same problem. So we should get the same answer. Okay, woohoo. You guys are awesome. Go take a break, get some hydration, get a snack, take a nap maybe, do something fun, make some music, make some art, dance around, get some exercise, and then math on.